Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we're going to be checking out some incredibly spicy battles in the Master League Premier Cup, featuring a double legacy Shadow FERALIGATR. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now, Shadow FERALIGATR is a pure water type with the moveset of Water Gun, Hydro Cannon, and Ice Beam. While it's definitely more of a pick for fun than for climbing, this trainer is able to have some nice sets with it. So without further ado, let's up into the matches and check out Shadow FERALIGATR in the Master Premier Cup. Hopping to the first match, leading Togekiss into Gyarados. Opponent is going to save switch into an EXCADRILL, and now it's time for Shadow FERALIGATR to shine. They're going to fire off a Drill Run. FERALIGATR does not care about Drill Runs. It's going to tank the Drill Run, overfarm, and then go for the Hydro Cannon. This will easily KO the Exca. Exca commits the shield and is looking to try and make a play for switch here. Exca will reach another Drill Run. FERALIGATR can shield, farm down, and leave with a charge move loaded for whatever the opponent decides to bring in. Opponent is going to send in their Dragon Tail Gyarados, which will be met with the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon will get some chip, and now in comes Togekiss. Togekiss is double resisting the fast move from Gyarados here, which is quite nice. Gyarados is going to fire off the Aqua Tail. In the back, they have Chandelure, and Chandelure is going to be met with Exca. Exca farming up a ton of energy here. We're going to have to see. Chandelure does have a lot of energy as well. Chandelure goes for the Flame Charge. Exca is at the back-to-back Drill Runs here. Can Exca live that Incinerate? It's going to be close. Yes, it can. Exca tanks the Incinerate, KOs the Chandelure, and that is a good game. Same leads in the next match, Togekiss into Gyarados. We'll have to see what fast move this Gyarados is running. Gyarados is running Dragon Breath, and they're staying in. Dragon Breath Gyarados does not have a great matchup here, so if they're staying in, it looks like they're probably pretty weak to Togekiss in the back. Togekiss is looking to farm up here, overfarms slightly, and unfortunately loses CMP to the Gyarados. This Aqua Tail will get the Togekiss low. Togekiss is able to hang on and reach the Ancient Power. This will be lethal if they let it through, which they do. In comes Metagross. We see a pivot into Shadow FERALIGATR, and in the back, the opponent has Machamp. So it makes sense why they stayed in, because they were ABA weak to Togekiss. And now, being able to bait out that Machamp is huge, because this means that Exca hopefully will not have to face it in the end game. FERALIGATR trying to make it to another Hydro Cannon, but gets farmed down first. And this is a bit scary, because Machamp does have a lot of energy here. Machamp can honestly just go for cross chops, and Togekiss is going to have to start shielding. This Machamp is incredibly low, and at this point, yeah, I think you just let this go. Trust in Exca's ability to farm down. In comes Exca. We see an immediate switch into Metagross, and this is honestly really good for EXCADRILL. Exca is going to be firing off a Drill Run. Drill Run is going to get the shield. Continuing to farm. Metagross is able to win CMP, and the threat of an Earthquake is going to be forcing that final shield. The opponent ends up going for a Meteor Mash, but either way, still we're shielding, and now we're going to see an Undercharge, trying to farm down and leave with energy to get rid of Machamp. Gets the farm down, and that is a good game. Picking up a terrible lead in the next match, Togekiss into Metagross. We're going to see a save switch into Shadow FERALIGATR, and the opponent is going to respond with Dragonite. Dragonite going to fire off the Dragon Claw. FERALIGATR is going to let this through. Dragon Claw gets FERALIGATR low. FERALIGATR charging up the Ice Beam. Do they respect it? They do not. Get absolutely one shot. Opponent is going to send in a Waterfall Gyarados to get the farm down. And now it's going to be up to Togekiss to try and get rid of the Gyarados. Gyarados is going to be able to strike first with the energy lead, firing off the Aqua Tail. Continuing to farm, Togekiss trying to reach an Ancient Power, but with the energy lead, Gyarados reaches another charge move, and that is quite unfortunate here. Togekiss continuing to farm, going to fire off the Ancient Power. Ancient Power will be lethal, but if the opponent saves 2 shields for Metagross, which they do, this could get tough. In comes Metagross, and Metagross will be met with the Exca. Metagross did have an energy lead, and it has a shield advantage, so this is going to be an extremely tough endgame. Decision time. Do you call a bait? Shields at the last second, and shields a Meteor Mash, and I think unfortunately that may mean game over, as Metagross will be able to outpace the Exca here. Exca farming up, barely not able to get to the Drill Run with the bait. Metagross makes the Earthquake, takes down the Exca, and the Togekiss. We've got the same leads in the next match, Togekiss into Metagross. as with before, going to need to immediately save switch into the Shadow FERALIGATR. Metagross is going to farm up and then send in Gyarados. Definitely not the greatest spot for FERALIGATR to be in, but FERALIGATR is going to fire off the Ice Beam. Ice Beam will hit for some nice neutral damage. Gyarados continuing to farm. They're going to start firing off charge moves. They go for the Crunch. Crunch gets the FERALIGATR low, and FERALIGATR gets taken out. But now, gonna send in the Togekiss to take care of this Gyarados and hope that once the Gyarados is out of the way, that EXCA is going to be able to sweep in the end game. They fire off the Aqua Tail. Togekiss is able to tank it, get the farm down, will look to immediately pivot into the EXCADRILL, and the Metagross is staying in. They go for a catch onto Togekiss, and this is winnable. If EXCA has good energy management here, this is very doable. Rock Slide is able to get the shield, farming up one more, and going for Rock Slide number 2, applying a lot of pressure onto the Togekiss. EXCA continuing to farm up, going for another Rock Slide, again applying so much pressure onto this opponent. They are going to let that through, trusting in the Metagross. At this point, the Metagross has to try and commit to the Bullet Punch farm down because they are not making 3 Meteor matches, and EXCA is just too healthy. EXCA will be able to double shield, reach the back-to-back drill runs, and that will be game over. EXCA able to get there. Drill run number 1 is going to be getting the shield, and drill run number 2 is going to get the KO. So despite the terrible lead, able to battle back and secure the win. Moving into the next match, picking up a fairly neutral lead, Togekiss into Florges. Opponent save switches into EXCADRILL, and Shadow FERALIGATR knows exactly what to do with that. Tank the drill run, will be able to overfarm a decent amount and then fire off the Hydro Cannon just before they're able to reach drill run number 2. This will easily KO the EXCA. EXCA is going to commit the shield as they're going to try and make a play for switch advantage, but Shadow FERALIGATR can match shields, farm down, and then leave with a nice amount of energy to threaten whatever the opponent decides to bring in. Do we see that Florges make an appearance? Yes, we do. Opponent gonna send back in the Florges. If they aggressively switch to Steel type into a Fairy, odds are this could be Florges double Steel, and if that's the case, you're gonna want to send in Togekiss here. Thinking about it, do we see the Togekiss? Yes, we do. In the back, it's a Metagross, and that's a great read from the battler. Anticipating there could be the second Steel type in the back, saving the EXCADRILL, and now EXCADRILL is in an incredibly good spot to finish off the game, and it looks like the opponent has just stopped tapping at this point because they know that it's over. Drill Run is gonna KO. In comes the Florges with a charge move, but there's just nothing Florges can do here. They go for the Disarming Voice. That does nothing. EXCA is going to make it to the Drill Run. Drill Run will safely take out the Florges and secure the win. Nightmare lead in the next match, Togekiss into Tangrowth. Tangrowth is an incredibly spicy pick for the Master Premier Cup, and it absolutely core breaks this team. Going to stay in with Togekiss. Togekiss at the very least does not get one shot by a Rock Slide, but still, this Tangrowth is going to be incredibly tough to get rid of. Opponent is going to save switch into Snorlax. Snorlax will be met with the Shadow FERALIGATR. FERALIGATR is going to farm up and go for the Hydro Cannon. This Hydro Cannon will apply a lot of pressure onto the Snorlax, and it ends up being a CMP tie. Snorlax is going to return fire here, firing off the Body Slam, and that's going to land. Shadow FERALIGATR continuing to farm. Snorlax reaches Body Slam number 2, and I honestly like the no shield here. At this point, switch advantage doesn't really help you because you're triple weak to the Tangrowth. Ideally, you're going to want to try and get an energy lead if at all possible. Going to send in the Togekiss. Togekiss looking for the farm down, but not quite able to get there. Snorlax with the last second Body Slam, and now it's all up to EXCA. EXCA gets a nice energy lead. We'll have to see what they have in the back. They're going to send in the Tangrowth, and Tangrowth has energy. Committed to shield here. Power Whip would do a solid amount of damage. EXCA continuing to farm up and going for the Rock Slide. Rock Slide will do some solid neutral chip damage here. Rock Slide gets the shield, going for a second Rock Slide, and the opponent is going to catch it onto Dragonite. Opponent recognizing that basically Tangrowth is the win con at this point. EXCA going to be firing off another Rock Slide. This will be getting rid of the Dragonite, but unfortunately, the opponent actually commits the shield. But still, I'm not sure I see a win con here because Tangrowth does have a bit of energy. Opponent goes for the superpower. EXCA needing to overfarm as much as possible. This is going to be close. Can EXCA outpace the Tangrowth here? In comes the Tangrowth. Tangrowth gets to the move, outpacing the EXCA by 2 turns. Power Whip is going to KO, and that's a good game. Tough leads continue in the next match. Togekiss into Exca. Immediate save switch into Shadow FERALIGATR. Exca is going to stay in, bank a drill run for later, and then send in Togekiss. But Togekiss is not going to appreciate the Shadow Ice Beam. Shadow FERALIGATR firing off the Ice Beam and grabbing a shield from the opponent. FERALIGATR not quite able to get to another Ice Beam. The question is, how well was the opponent counting? Hydro Cannon gets the second shield, so Shadow FERALIGATR putting in a lot of work there, and now you can just send in your own Togekiss to tank the Ancient Power and farm all the way down. Ancient Power will hit for super effective damage, but it's not going to be enough to KO, so Togekiss is able to tank it and get the charm down. We'll have to see, do they bring in the Exca, or do we see their final Pokemon here? We see their final Pokemon, and it's a Swampert. I mean, Exca does have a 2-0 shield advantage, but getting rid of this Swampert is going to be tough. Able to land the Flamethrower, which is quite nice. Opponent is going to farm up to the back-to-back Hydros and fire the first, letting this through. And now Exca has to try its best to get rid of the Swampert, which has a lot of energy, and the Exca, which has a loaded Drill Run as well. Hydro Cannon gets the shield, going for the Drill Run, and the opponent went for the Snipe. The opponent tried to bring in their Exca and throw the Drill Run, but they're not able to get that charge move off, and because of that, this game is now over. Exca can shield the Hydro Cannon, go for the Drill Run. Drill Run will be taking care of the Swampert, and despite the terrible lead, able to grab the win. Great lead in the next match, Togekiss into Dragonite. Opponent will need to immediately save switch out of this matchup, and they do, as they bring in a Dragon Breath Gyarados. So they are very weak to a Togekiss on the lead. Gyarados is going to fire off the Aqua Tail. Togekiss can tank this, so Togekiss is going to let that through and go for the Ancient Power right away. Ancient Power will apply a lot of pressure onto the Gyarados. Gyarados commits the shield, and now we see a switch into the Shadow FERALIGATR. FERALIGATR will be able to tank this damage from the Gyarados. Gyarados goes for the crunch, does not get the debuff, which is quite nice. FERALIGATR is going to fire off the Hydro Cannon. This is resisted, but it will be enough to KO, and now the opponent is going to send back in the Dragonite. Dragonite does get the farm down, unfortunately, before FERALIGATR is able to make an Ice Beam. Going to wait the timer here and going to send in the Togekiss. Opponent could potentially switch out here, but they're actually staying in. They're going to fire off a superpower. That does some solid damage. In the bag, they have their own EXCADRILL, but at a shield disadvantage here. Despite the fact that they have an energy lead, they're honestly in a pretty tough spot. Drill Run is able to get the shield. Exca is going to start using shields itself. Opponent is going to start firing off these Drill Runs. First one gets the shield. Second one is going to be shielded as well, but they're not going to reach a third before Exca is able to reach the second. Going for the Drill Run as soon as they get there, not wanting to risk the opponent reaching a third move. That's going to KO. In comes the Dragonite. Dragonite farming up, and they concede the match. We've got a mirror match in the final game, Togekiss into Togekiss. Honestly, could decide to stay in here, and that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to stay in this matchup, farming up, going for the Ancient Power, and able to win CMP over the opponent. That is quite nice. Ancient Power does get shielded, no boost, and going to shield the opponent's Ancient Power in return. We'll have to see, do we see a pivot at some point? Yes, we do, into the Shadow FERALIGATR. FERALIGATR going for the Water Gun farm down versus the Charmer, and able to get there. That's quite nice. Opponent sends in Metagross into a loaded FERALIGATR. FERALIGATR is going to start spamming out these Hydro Cannons. First one gets a shield, and going for Hydro Cannon number 2. No shields left for the opponent. This damage is going to land. Can FERALIGATR get to another move? They barely cannot. That's a little unfortunate. This Metagross does have a lot of energy, and that is a bit scary, as Exca definitely does not appreciate an Earthquake here. Opponent is going to fire off a charge move. They full sent the Earthquake. That's a big shield. Exca going for the farm down. Metagross makes a move. Were they able to make it to the Earthquake? They were not. It's just a Meteor Mash. In the back, the opponent has a Mud Shot Garchomp, and Exca with this much energy is in an incredibly good spot. Going to be firing off Drill Run number 2. This will get them into the red. You can just send in the Togekiss, charm down the Garchomp and the Metagross, and grab the win. All in all, double legacy Shadow FERALIGATR definitely looks like a very fun spice pick in the Master League Premier Cup. While it's definitely more of a pick for fun than for climbing, I do really enjoy how it absolutely destroys Excadrills, and also does have the surprise Ice Beam nuke for potential Dragonites. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is absolutely incredible. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.